I caught my best friend's fiance having an affair with his ex a week before their wedding. When I showed her the evidence, she accused me of trying to ruin her happiness out of jealousy. Now she's married, pregnant, and just found out he's been leading a double life the entire time. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I need to get it off my chest. 6 months ago, I lost my best friend of 15 years over something that I never saw coming. We were inseparable since middle school, through high school drama, college adventures, first heartbreaks, and career struggles. I was there for her through everything, and she was there for me. At least that's what I thought. When Melissa got engaged to Derek after dating for just 10 months, I was surprised, but supportive. She had always been the impulsive one between us, jumping headfirst into relationships, while I was more cautious. I had only met Derek a handful of times, but he seemed nice enough, charming, successful, and he made my best friend happy. That was all that mattered to me. As her maid of honor, I myself into wedding planning, dress shopping, venue visits, cake tastings. I was by her side for all of it. I wanted her day to be perfect. What I didn't expect was to discover something that would change everything. Just 1 week before the wedding, I was at a business conference in a city about 2 hours away from where we live. After a long day of presentations, I decided to have dinner at a trendy restaurant that one of my colleagues had recommended. That's when I saw him, Derek, sitting at a corner table with a beautiful woman. They weren't just having a casual dinner, they were holding hands across the table. And she was wearing a stunning diamond bracelet that he had just gifted her based on the open jewelry box on the table. My heart dropped in my stomach. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I discreetly took out my phone and snapped a few photos, making sure to capture how close they were sitting, the intimate gestures, and the jewelry box. I even managed to record a short video where he leaned in and kissed her. There was no mistaking it. Melissa's fiancé was cheating on her just days before their wedding. I spent the entire night debating what to do. Should I confront Derek first? Should I tell Melissa immediately? Would she even believe me? In the end, I decided that as her best friend, I had to tell her the truth. I couldn't let her marry a man who was being unfaithful before they even exchanged vows. The next day, I drove straight to Melissa's apartment. I sat her down and as gently as possible, showed her the photos and video. "I'm so sorry, Mel," I said, my voice breaking. "I know this is the last thing you want to see, but you deserve to know the truth before you marry him." I expected shock, tears, maybe even anger directed at Derek. What I didn't expect was for her to turn on me. Her face contorted with rage as she accused me of manipulating the photos, of taking things out of context. "You've always been jealous of me." She spat out her words like daggers. "You can't stand to see me happy because you're still single. You've never liked Derek, and now you're trying to ruin my wedding." I was stunned. "Melissa, that's not true. I'm showing you this because I care about you." That woman was wearing a diamond bracelet he just gave her. They were kissing. "That's his cousin. They're close," she shouted, though the kiss I captured was definitely not one shared between cousins. "His cousin." "Mel, please, you know that's not true." I pleaded, but she was too far gone. "Get out," she whispered, her voice deadly calm. "Get out of my home and my life. You're uninvited from the wedding. I never want to see you again." I tried to reason with her, but she wouldn't listen. She blocked my number, removed me from all social media, and told our mutual friends that I had tried to sabotage her relationship out of jealousy. Most of them took her side. After all, who would make up something so horrible about their best friend's fiancé? Just like that, I lost my best friend, and many of our mutual friends. In one fell swoop, the wedding went ahead as planned. I saw the photos posted online by our friends. Melissa looking radiant in her white dress, Derek beaming at her side, everyone celebrating what looked like a perfect day. It broke my heart, knowing what I knew, but I had done all I could do. I had to let her go. For 6 months, I heard nothing from Melissa. I tried to move on with my life, though the pain of losing her friendship lingered. I myself into work, started therapy, and began rebuilding my social circle. Then, out of nowhere, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Emma." The voice on the other end was barely recognizable, hoarse from crying, but unmistakably Melissa's. "Melissa?" I couldn't believe she was calling me after all this time. "You were right," she sobbed. "You were right about everything." Update 1. I met Melissa at a quiet cafe the following day. She looked nothing like the confident, vibrant woman I had known for years. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her hair pulled back messily, and despite it being a warm day, she was wrapped in an oversized sweater, as if trying to disappear inside it. As soon as she saw me, she broke down in tears. "I'm so sorry, Emma," she cried. "I should have believed you. I should have listened." I hugged her tightly, my own eyes welling up. Despite everything that had happened, this was still my best friend, and seeing her in pain me deeply. Once we were seated with our coffees, she told me everything. 3 days ago, Melissa had been organizing some documents at home when she found Derek's second phone hidden in a hollowed-out book in his office. Curiosity got the better of her and she managed to unlock it using his usual password pattern. What she discovered shattered her world. Derek hadn't just been seeing one woman on the side. He had been maintaining a completely separate relationship with his ex-girlfriend, the same woman I had seen him with at the restaurant. They had never actually broken up. In fact, she believed they were still together and that his business trips were actually times they spent together. He had an apartment in her city that Melissa knew nothing about. There were photos of them together spanning the entire time he had been with Melissa, including several taken during his honeymoon when he had claimed to be taking conference calls. The worst part, Melissa whispered, her hand shaking around her coffee cup, is that I'm pregnant. I'm 3 months along. And he told his ex that he's expecting a baby with her too. I nearly choked on my coffee. What? She's pregnant too? Melissa nodded miserably. She's due just 1 month after me. He's been living a complete double life. 2 women, 2 homes, and soon 2 children. How could I be so blind? I reached across the table and took her hand. You weren't blind, Mel. He was exceptionally deceptive. This isn't your fault. But you saw it, she said, tears streaming down her face again. You saw it and tried to warn me. And our friendship away. I chose him over you, and he's been lying to me from day one. She showed me the messages she had found on his phone. Derek had been telling his ex that his business partner Melissa was clingy and demanding, making it difficult for him to leave the business they had built together, but that he was working on a way for them to be together permanently. He had even been siphoning money from his joint account with Melissa to pay for expenses with his ex. I confronted him, Melissa continued. I laid out everything I had found. Do you know what he did? He laughed. He actually laughed and said I should be grateful he married me at all. That lots of successful men have multiple families, and that I was naive to think otherwise. My boiled hearing this. Please tell me you're leaving him. Melissa nodded firmly, a flash of her old determination showing through her tears. I kicked him out that night. I've already contacted a divorce lawyer. But, Emma, I'm so scared. I'm pregnant. I've alienated so many friends, and I don't know what to do. I squeezed her hand tightly. You're not alone now. I'm here now, and we'll figure this out together. How can you even forgive me? She asked, her voice small. After everything I said to you, how I treated you. Because that's what real friends do, I told her honestly. We forgive each other when we make mistakes. And while you me deeply, I understand why you couldn't see the truth. You loved him. And sometimes love blinds us. We spent hours in that cafe, talking, crying, and slowly beginning to rebuild our friendship. Melissa had a long road ahead of her divorce proceedings, preparing for single motherhood, and dealing with the emotional fallout of Derek's betrayal. But at least now she wouldn't have to face it alone. As we were leaving, Melissa stopped suddenly and turned to me. There's something else you should know, she said quietly. The day after our fight, when I told Derek what you had shown me, he seemed relieved that I didn't believe you. He said you must have been confused about what you saw. But then he suggested that I you out of my life completely, that you were an unstable. Looking back, he was isolating me from the one person who saw through him. That revelation didn't surprise me. It's still to hear how calculated Derek had been in separating us. Classic manipulation tactic, I said sadly. Isolate the person from anyone who might see the truth. Well, it won't work anymore, Melissa said, a hint of her usual determination in her voice. I've lost 6 months of our friendship because of him. I won't lose another day. Update 2. It's been 3 months since Melissa came back into my life and so much has happened that I hardly know where to begin. The divorce proceedings are underway, but Derek is fighting dirty, trying to claim that Melissa is emotionally unstable and unfit to be a mother. His true colors are showing in full force now, and it's both terrifying and validating to see the man I glimpsed at that restaurant finally exposed for who he really is. The most shocking development came when Derek's ex-girlfriend, let's call her Vanessa, reached out to Melissa after Derek finally admitted to her that he was married. Instead of the catfight Derek probably expected, the 2 women compared notes and realized just how extensively he had been lying to both of them. Vanessa hadn't known Derek was married. He had told her that he was on the verge of breaking up with a clingy business partner, Melissa, and that's why he couldn't be with her full time. Yet, she was devastated to learn the truth, especially since she was carrying his child and had been planning a future with him. The 2 women, connected by the worst possible circumstances, decided to meet. I went with Melissa for support, nervous about what might happen. But it turned out Vanessa was just as much a victim as Melissa was. Over lunch, they pieced together Derek's elaborate web of lies. He told me he was building us a house in the suburbs, Vanessa said, showing us pictures of a construction site. I even picked out finishes and flooring. Melissa went pale. That's the vacation home we've been building. He told me it was an investment property. They discovered he had been using the same romantic gestures with both of them. Identical text messages sent minutes apart, The same gifts with the same thoughtful stories behind them. Even the same proposals. He had proposed to Vanessa just 3 months after marrying Melissa, using the exact same words. But the truly sickening revelation came when they started talking about finances. Derek had been taking money from both women under various pretenses: business investments, property purchases, family emergencies. Bank statements revealed he had amassed close to $200,000 of their combined money, which was now nowhere to be found. "I think we need to go to the police," I suggested after hearing all this. "This isn't just cheating. And that's exactly what they did." With the help of a financial forensic specialist, they documented every transaction, every lie, every manipulation. The evidence was overwhelming. Derek had defrauded both women of significant amounts of money, using their emotional attachment to him as leverage. The investigation also uncovered something none of us expected. Melissa and Vanessa weren't the only victims. There was a third woman in another state who had been similarly deceived, though thankfully not to the same financial extent. Derek had been running the scheme for years, moving from one woman to another, overlapping relationships to maximize his gains. When confronted with all the evidence, Derek's lawyer advised him to negotiate a settlement rather than face criminal charges. He agreed to repay all the money he had taken, plus additional compensation for emotional damages. The divorce was expedited with terms heavily favoring Melissa due to the circumstances. Throughout all of this, Melissa and I have been rebuilding our friendship. There have been difficult conversations, tears, and lingering, but our bond is slowly healing. She's now 6 months pregnant and focusing on creating a stable, happy life for her baby. She's even formed an unlikely friendship with Vanessa, the two of them supporting each other through pregnancy and the aftermath of Derek's betrayal. As for me, I've learned something valuable from this entire ordeal. Sometimes being a good friend means telling hard truths, even when you know they might not be well received. I don't regret showing Melissa those photos, even though it cost me 6 months of our friendship. In the end, the truth always comes out, and I'm just grateful that I could be there for her when it did. Update 3: It's been nearly 7 months since my last update, and life has changed dramatically for all of us. Melissa is now the proud mother of a beautiful baby girl named Lily, who just turned 3 months old. Despite all the stress and heartbreak of the past year, Melissa has embraced motherhood with the same determination and passion she brings to everything in her life. Vanessa gave birth to a baby boy a month after Melissa. The two women have maintained their surprising friendship. And their children, half-siblings by will, grow up knowing each other. It's not the family situation either of them envisioned, but they're making it work with grace and maturity that continues to impress me. As for Derek, the consequences of his actions finally caught up with him. The financial case revealed even more victims than we initially discovered. It turns out he had been running this scheme for nearly a decade, moving between cities and overlapping relationships to extract money from unsuspecting women who believed they were building a future with him. Thanks to the thorough documentation provided by Melissa, Vanessa, and the other victims, Derek is now serving a 5-year prison sentence. For the judge was particularly harsh given the emotional manipulation involved and the fact that he had targeted women who were planning families with him. All of his assets have been seized and distributed among his victims, though the emotional damage he caused can never be fully repaired. In an unexpected twist, one of Derek's former friends reached out to Melissa a few months ago. He admitted that several of Derek's friends had known about his double life, but had kept quiet out of misguided loyalty. "I should have said something," he told her. "I knew what he was doing wasn't right, but I didn't want to get involved. Seeing you pregnant and alone, I can't live with that on my conscience anymore." This confession led to several of our mutual friends who had sided with Derek during the initial fallout to reach out and apologize to both Melissa and me. Some relationships have been cautiously rebuilt, while others remain too damaged to repair. We've learned the hard way who our true friends are. Melissa has thrown herself into creating a stable, loving home for Lily. She's returned to work part-time and is thriving in her role as a single mother, surrounded by a support system of friends and family who truly care about her well-being. Her parents, who had always been slightly skeptical of Derek, another red flag we both missed, have been incredibly supportive, helping with childcare and emotional support. As for me and Melissa, our friendship has emerged from this ordeal stronger than ever. The 6-month separation gave us both perspective on how much we value each other. We've had many long, honest conversations about what happened. The betrayal, the misunderstandings. It wasn't easy, but working through that pain together has deepened our bond. "You know," Alyssa said to me recently as we were watching Lily sleep, "in a twisted way, I'm almost grateful for what happened. Not for Derek's betrayal, but for what it taught me about myself and the people in my life." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I learned that I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. I learned who my real friends are." She squeezed my hand. "And I learned that sometimes the people who really love you will tell you truths you don't want to hear. Not because they want you, but because they can't stand to see you yourself." I smiled at her, remembering the terrified woman I had been that day at the restaurant, taking photos with shaking hands, knowing I was about to shatter my best friend's world, but feeling compelled to do it anyway out of love for her. "I'm just glad you came back," I told her honestly. Melissa looked down at her sleeping daughter, so innocent and perfect. "We're exactly where we're supposed to be now," she said softly. "And that's what matters." As difficult as this journey has been, I believe she's right. Sometimes the hardest roads lead us exactly where we need to be, with the people who truly matter by our sides. Update 4. It's been 2 years since my last update, and I'm happy to report that life continues to move forward in positive ways for all of us. Lily just celebrated her 2nd birthday with a princess-themed party that had her squealing with delight at every turn. She's growing into a spirited, confident little girl, with her mother's determination and smile. Melissa has blossomed in ways I never could have imagined during those dark days after Derek's betrayal. She's been promoted at work to a leadership position that allows her the flexibility to be present for Lily while still advancing her career. More importantly, she's found herself again the vibrant, adventurous woman I knew before Derek came into our lives. The most unexpected development has been Melissa's relationship with Vanessa. What began as 2 women united in trauma has evolved into a genuine friendship based on mutual respect and understanding. They've created an unusual but beautiful extended family for their children, with regular playdates and shared holidays. Lily and Vanessa's son Jake are inseparable, more like twins than half-siblings, despite the slight age difference. People always ask how we do it. Melissa told me recently how we can be friends after everything that happened. But honestly, the question should be, why wouldn't we be? Neither of us did anything wrong. We were both deceived by the same man. And our children are innocent in all of this. They deserve to know their sibling. Derek was released from prison 6 months ago after serving his sentence. He immediately the terms of his parole by attempting to contact both Melissa and Vanessa, supposedly to see his children. The judge wasn't sympathetic, especially when evidence emerged that he had already been communicating with another woman while in prison, using the same manipulative tactics. He's back behind bars for the parole, and neither Melissa nor Vanessa have any interest in allowing him access to their children. As for me, I've had my own journey these past 2 years. After everything that happened, I took a hard look at my own patterns in relationships and realized I had some work to do. Therapy helped me understand why I had always been the cautious one. Fear of ending up in a situation like Melissa's had kept me from fully opening myself up to connection. Ironically, witnessing her resilience in the face of betrayal showed me that even the worst heartbreak can be survived and overcome. 6 months ago, I met someone special. Taking things slowly but deliberately, I've been more honest and vulnerable than I've ever allowed myself to be before. Melissa is thrilled for me, and her endorsement means everything after what we've been through. She's an excellent judge of character. Last weekend, we all gathered for a lakeside picnic. Melissa and Lily, Vanessa and Jake, me and my boyfriend, and a few close friends who stood by us through everything. As I watched the children playing at the water's edge, supervised closely by the adults who love them, I reflected on the strange, painful journey that led us here. None of us would have chosen this path. The heartbreak, betrayal, and lost time can never be undone. But looking at the strong women Melissa and Vanessa have become, the beautiful children they're raising, and the unconventional family they've created, it's hard not to see the beauty that has emerged from the ashes of Derek's deception. "You know what I realized recently?" Melissa said, sitting beside me on the picnic blanket. "If you hadn't taken those photos that night, if you hadn't been brave enough to show them to me despite knowing how I might react, I might still be living a lie. Lily and Jake might never have known each other, and Derek would still be people. You would have figured it out eventually," I assured her. "You're too smart not to have seen through him." "Maybe," she conceded. "But how much more damage would have been done by then? How many more women would he have deceived?" Sometimes the hardest truth is exactly what we need to hear, even when we fight against it. As the sun began to set over the lake, casting golden light over all of us, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for my rekindled friendship with Melissa, for the lessons we've all learned, and for the reminder that even in our darkest moments, the truth has a way of setting us free if we're brave enough to face it.